Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Be the Man. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer himself. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest of all time, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Rick, how are you, man?
Good morning, sir. How are you? I'm glad you're on the mend.
Dude, I'm glad you survived. This time last week, everybody's talking about the hurricane. Everybody's wondering, hey, what's going on with Rick? How are you, buddy?
I'm great. I remember I had to go to New York where Mike Tyson laid me to rest.
Well, that went viral again. Are you guys allowed to hang out contractually without a little Ric Flair?
I got to hang out with him Thursday and Friday of this week too. and I talked to Mark Wahlberg. I said, I think I'm going to burn one with Mark in Vegas. He lives there now.
Fantastic. Well, listen, boys and girls, we our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody in Florida who's suffering. Man, this was a pretty substantial storm down there, was it not?
Fort Myers and Naples are no more.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, actually, it never hit Tampa, thank God. 80-mile-an-hour winds, but that's it. But man, Fort Myers which nobody expected, it just got leveled. Dang, the weathermen are like the government. They're 50% on and 50% off.
Well, have you been in the Tampa area during a lot of big storms, or is this really like the first big one?
This is the first one I've been in Tampa. I've been in Panama City before.
What was your Panama City hurricane story?
I can't remember the name of it, but Ashley and Reed, Megan and David. I drove out. We used to have a condo right next to Randy Oaks, the guy from the Alabama, remember?
Yep.
And we were neighbors, and I drove out of there. It hit so fast and flooded so fast. I drove out of there for about 10 miles with the water up to my wheel well.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, because there's nowhere to go. You drive up the beach. There's nowhere it's hard to drive inland. I mean, it came that fast. I mean, it was pouring into the apartment. I mean, back then, I don't think the weather, it was, I don't think it was as, documented this early. But, I mean, literally, it came into the condo, threw the kids in the car, and drove out with it right up to the wheel well. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So.
Well, listen, thoughts and prayers to everybody who had to suffer through that. I know we've got a lot of mutual friends who are still without power. It's crazy, man.
Have you got friends in Fort Myers?
Well, I think you and I both have some mutual friends, I'll tell you off air, who are in a bad spot right now still. But hey, you know what? We're talking about a different topic today. Somebody that we can celebrate, somebody that we all hold in high regard, somebody you were lucky enough not only to meet, but to actually be in the ring with.
Yeah, unbelievable, huh?
Antonio Inoki. Boy, what a legend. And Rick, a lot of us listening to this, we grew up hearing that, man, this is the guy who fought Muhammad Ali. This is the guy who helped, revolutionize Japanese wrestling. One of the biggest stars ever, involved with the government. But most of us never actually met him or were in his presence or knew what sort of legacy he had in Japan. Most of us have never been to Japan. Can you contextualize how big of a star and how important Mr. Inoki was to wrestling in Japan?
I'm only saying this out of respect and because I'm old enough, but next to Rikidozan, who probably is, I would say Inoki's the biggest star in history of Japan, bigger than Bob and Rikidozan, because of his political background. He was he and Inoki were partners. Of course, they split. I don't know all. I've heard. Different reasons why they split, and he opened his own company called New Japan, and very similar to the back at one point in time, it was like the Monday Night Wars. Yeah. I mean, they were that big, and like Brody and Hanson would jump back and forth. Well, Brody jumped back and forth. Hanson never left Baba, but I mean, and the guys, the Americans that went over there made tremendous money. I'm talking about in the 80s, Brody and Hanson were getting like $25,000 a week.
Oh my.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when I went over there as the world champion, I got $3,000 a day.
Wow.
I mean, that's a lot of money to make back then when you go for a week.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Nothing like now, but I mean, then that was a lot of money.
Absolutely. It's big money for sure.
And wrestling was so big back then over there. And of course you've been, so these guys, like we call them sponsors, all they wanted to do was hang around you. They would take you out. They'd pay for everything. You could buy pearls for your wife or girlfriend, custom made clothes. I mean, it was unbelievable. You've been, right?
Yeah. I went to Wrestle Kingdom a few years ago. It was fantastic.
Yeah, you told me that. Yeah.
Really a surreal experience. But Inoki, man, he was a giant, you know, a huge star. And then,
well, he's Korean.
The legacy he had in Japanese wrestling, though, to be able to leave Baba, start your own thing. I mean, it was, and then involved in all those major moments. I mean, I think the whole Ali thing captivated everyone's attention. What did you think of that?
Well, he actually hurt Ali. You know that, right?
Yes.
I thought it was very boring myself to watch. I didn't care for it, but he kicked Ali's leg and he hurt him.
That would have been just a couple of years after you got in the business, right? Yeah, June of 76. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been in the business for 4 years. That's probably right. It was right after the airplane crash. My airplane crash.
It's just amazing to me to think about.
Yeah.
You know,
but to go over to go to North Korea with him was to this day the worst trip of my life. But I did enjoy him. And we came back, and I'm trying to think of the island we went to where we wrestled again. Not he and I wrestled another one of the guys, a big time guy. There's an island there. I can't think of it. And we went to a big festival and all that. And I gave him a gold bracelet I had. I mean, I thought a lot of the guy. We'd never talked. We'd never even met. And, the dressing rooms, of course, in that place were 80 miles apart. And Joe, the referee, said to me, he said, I think it was Joe was the referee, and just said, he says he trusts you. So I was being kind of a smart ass trying to make any humor. I said, tell him it's like riding on a Greyhound bus and leave the driving to me. I got that line from Larry Henning.
I love it.
Kid, pretend like you're riding on a Greyhound bus and leave the driving to me. We'd never talked, and some of the Japanese boys are guilty of hearing what they want to hear, but he could speak and he understood, and it worked out great. But it's strange, I mean, I look at it now, and I don't know. I don't think there's 5 guys in business that could have a match without talking about it first, because they haven't done it. Not that they couldn't, but they never had to do it.
Talk to me a little bit about New Japan. I mean, these days everyone really keeps up with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I mean, going back to the Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho era, a lot of American fans started really paying attention to it. But it was actually born in '72. I mean, it's a spinoff, if you will, of All Japan Pro Wrestling, and 72 was really getting going when you're getting going in wrestling. What was your first memory or recollection of New Japan and the reputation it had relative to All Japan?
The reputation he had was of being just a really good businessman, and people liked him as they liked Baba. I don't, I didn't see any really heat between those two guys. I never heard, of course, I wasn't around them enough personally, but I never heard them speak badly of each other. It created a tremendous atmosphere for wrestling. I mean, and instead of building off that, then it became harder and harder to get TV. Then they fought over TV, and even WWE has been unsuccessful unless something happened in the last year to strike a deal with the TV over there. It's very difficult to get TV, and that's what basically ended up hurting both of them.
It's crazy to think about, these giants in pro wrestling and all that they contributed. But you mentioned a name a minute ago. We've all heard Giant Baba. We've all heard Antonio Inoki. But Rikidozan, boy, he's like the legend of all legends in Japan. How big of a shadow does he cast over pro wrestling, at least during your experience in Japan?
Inoki?
Rikidozan.
Oh, God. When I first got over there, that's all you heard about was Rikidozan. You know how he died, right?
I heard, and again, this is rumor.
He would carry $2 million around with him in U.S. currency and had it handcuffed to him. And they followed him into the bathroom and killed him in the bathroom of a restaurant. Cut off his wrist, or cut off his wrist, or cut off the bracelet and took the money. He was a full-fledged gangster.
Okay.
As I've been led to understand. You've seen those movies like Purple Rain and that, where there actually is as there is in society everywhere, there are, powerful people that probably aren't the most honest. We call them gangsters over here, or the mob, or whatever. It exists in Japan too, as it does everywhere.
It looks like there was a stabbing incident, I guess is what I'd heard, and quick little Google search here. Yeah, Mr. Rikidozan. Talk to me a little bit about Giant Baba. This is a guy who, we know is maybe due to the politics, a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, even for a cup of coffee. But you had to have a ton of interaction with All Japan and Baba family.
I did.
Yeah, talk me through that.
Well, I even knew Matoka real well. They kind of ran that business together. Matoka was his wife. And of course, while I was there, everybody from Dory and Terry booked for them. And then eventually, that's where John Laurinaitis made his money. And a lot of it, John took over the book and booked it for Baba for, God, I would say 10, 12 years.
Let's talk about the Ali bit for a bit. Meltzer had this to say: the most famous encounter was actually one of the biggest catastrophes in wrestling history, but should have been a shining moment for the business that possibly could have changed the very face of the business worldwide. Shinma and Inoki reached the deal to get Ali, the reigning heavyweight boxing champion and the biggest sports star in the world, to work a world boxing champion versus world wrestling champion match on what was billed as the Martial Arts World Championship on June 25th, 1976 in Tokyo. They got Ali through a $6 million offer, which at the time was more money than Ali had ever received for any of his previous fights, and because it was supposed to be a worked match, minimizing the chance for serious damage for Ali. So that's sort of the way it's laid out. A $6 million offer years before that's commonplace. And then, of course, we would see years later. I just want to contextualize this. I know when people talk about the first WrestleMania, they talk about Ali. That was 9 years after this. Mm-hmm. This is a big deal to have Ali here.
Oh,
I mean, maybe one of the biggest coups of all.
To have Ali in Korea?
To have Ali face Antonio Inoki.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm sorry. I started thinking about Korea because Ali went to Korea too, as you know.
Sure.
I'm sure it was. My God, I don't know if you guys remember years ago. I'm sure Conrad, because you're a sports guy, you'll remember this. The Archie Moore, who was, they say, pound for pound, one of the greatest boxers of all time, wrestled and boxed with Roy Shires, that promoter from California.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I do.
Yeah. And Archie Moore could have, very simply beat the hell out of me, didn't, but, and then I also, and I think I've told you that I traveled, because Joe had problems, Fraser, I traveled in Puerto Rico for 10 days with Joe and his wife, and he was wrestling Victor Javic every night and get beat by Victor. So I've seen a lot of that. I hate to see it at the end of their career when they end up with no money and have to do stuff like that. But I mean, Ali, I think the greatest thing you can say about Ali, and in this, I'm getting off the base of the Inoki for a minute, but you know, a lot of people were upset, but when Ali carried the torch in the '96 Olympics, the one that Kurt was at in Atlanta, I mean, that was it. And when you got a guy of that kind of recognition over there in Japan, and he was like a god everywhere he went. I mean, we know that he fought in Zaire against Foreman, and I mean, you just can't say enough about him. He was a tremendous guy, and he did tremendous things. And I think that, like we both decided, or we both commented, I don't think the match was worth a damn, him and Inoki, but the fact that he was there made it huge. Yes, absolutely.
It's pretty amazing to think, you know, that we had multiple instances where we could say that we had Muhammad Ali involved. And of course, in that era, you know, this is around the same time that the movie Rocky is going to come out. And a lot of people think that's loosely based on Chuck Wepner. And Chuck had just wrestled Andre the Giant for the WWF.
Yeah.
Did you think that this was maybe the future of the business, these celebrity interactions, these big boxers as one-offs? I mean, Ali versus Inoki, Wepner versus Andre. Did you think that could catch on, or did you sort of see that as a sideshow spectacle back then?
I saw that as a sideshow spectacle. The only thing the coolest thing I ever saw besides, and it was really cool. Now that I'm with him all the time, we talk about it, but the thing that WWE did with Mike Tyson and Stone Cold and Shawn was the best. When Mike was still in really good shape, remember?
Right.
At WrestleMania, I mean, that was some good stuff. Brother, Mike's a machine. He's in good shape now. He'll hate me saying this, but that Jake Paul don't want nothing to do with Mike Tyson.
Oh no, I don't think so. Yeah.
They keep throwing that out there. One of the days Mike's going to say, yeah. Brother, he built like a brick shit house still.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd want to fight Mike Tyson ever for any reason at any age.
No, why would you?
No.
You think anybody messed around with him in the joint? I don't think so.
No.
Probably not.
So this Inoki Ali match we've been talking about did a 54.6 rating. A 54.6 rating. Not only that,
what's considered good?
I mean, if wrestling gets a 2.0, people are high fives right now.
Oh, 50. I'm talking about, I'm sorry, I didn't get what you meant. You're talking about rating on TV.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
54.6 million.
Oh my God. Did it really?
6 is the rating for Ali Inoki. And that's the afternoon feed because it's live there. But they did a replay that evening. The replay got a 26.3 rating.
Oh my God.
And even though the match is in Japan, there's 14,000 fans there at the Budokan Hall. It's an all-time gate record.
Yeah, I've wrestled there many times.
But they're still selling tickets here in America, so you can watch it on a closed circuit. That did $150,000.
And Ali only got $6 million for it?
I don't know that he even got all of that. Because
really?
As I recall, it was not a huge financial hit. But when it came to captivating attention, Ali and Inoki did the trick, boy. Woo!
So it was on TV rather than pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, that didn't really exist. You could go do closed circuit, but that was as far as it went.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
And of course, Inoki would win and trade the WWF title with Bob Backlund between two matches, one in Japan and then one at MSG. And that wasn't ever really acknowledged by the company until he passed. And then Hunter did allow Corey to acknowledge it on TV. Why do you think Inoki's win was never acknowledged by the company?
I have no idea. I wasn't aware of the fact they did that. You just made me aware of something I knew nothing about. How was the match?
Well, I have no idea, but it's Bob Backlund and Inoki. We could probably use our imagination and visualize that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
He being Inoki, Hulk Hogan's most watched match too. Yeah, I think when people think about Hulk Hogan's most watched match, they usually think about the main event from 1988 with Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they think about, him losing to Goldberg on Nitro or Lex Luger beating him on Nitro. Those are all huge ratings bonanzas. But his match with Antonio Inoki drew a much bigger rating. It's crazy to think about man, Inoki, such a megastar. You put him with Hogan in the early days, huge. You put him with Ali, huge. And then somehow, some way, he winds up in WCW in 1994. He came in to have a pay-per-view match with Lord Steven Regal. Do you remember him showing up for that event?
Inoki?
Yeah.
Yeah, I sure do.
Well, were you surprised that he would come to a WCW pay-per-view like that?
No, because Eric was dying to get in, to do business with those guys. I'm not sure what the financial arrangements were. That's when I same time when I was wrestling Fujinami. Remember?
I think this is when the Hulk Hogan era is there. They just sort of brought him in as some sort of spectacle, and as the story goes, Mr. Regal asked Mr. Inoki to choke him out for real, and quite a spectacle. And less than a year later, I guess what we're most famously talking about Mr. Inoki for today, you would take Inoki on in North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
What a freaking story. As the legend goes, Eric asked you fourth. He asked George Foreman. He asked Hulk Hogan. He asked Sting. And you somehow accept. And Muhammad Ali's there. And
but the same thing I accepted, but I got lied to again. It was never supposed to be taped, never supposed to be aired. Got taped, got aired in Japan, animated DVD. They made a DVD of it. I never got a dime.
I don't know that there ever was a DVD here in America. Maybe there was over there, but I don't think.
Oh yeah, over there. I'm talking about. No, there was one made here. Are you kidding? I'm pretty sure there was one made here.
DVDs didn't exist in 95. So DVDs didn't exist in 95.
Okay, not DVD. Let's put it like this. It aired.
A home release. Yeah.
Huh?
A home release. They did some sort of home video release.
Yeah, there you go. Home video. Is that right?
So talk to me about,
you have to remember my age and my,
I get it.
My current, time frame of when DVDs became popular in that home video. There you go. The moral of the story is, though, I got no money.
What about,
you'll be bigger than Lawrence Taylor.
That's the pitch.
That was the line that was given me. You'll be more famous than Lawrence Taylor when you get back. Okay, Eric.
I mean, technically he's right. I think you are more famous than Lawrence Taylor.
Back then, I don't know.
Maybe not back then, but
you couldn't have told me that while we were sitting over there in the hotels with our passports being confiscated.
Yeah, let's talk about what a crazy experience that must have been. Because
holy shit, you have no idea. And me and Ali sitting at Marigold Hall, which is the equivalent of their capital, the equivalent of their White House. And all this guy is doing is talking about how bad, with an interpreter, talking right next to him, how much they hate the Japanese and hate the Americans. And Ali, who hasn't said a word in 2 days, taps me on the leg and said, "No wonder we hate these son of a bitches." I said, "God, don't start talking now, man, please." That's one of my most famous stories. He hadn't said a word. He tapped me on the leg and said, "No wonder we hate these son of a bitches." Good Lord. Please, Muhammad, not now.
My goodness. So when you get there, let's talk about Inoki, because again, this is, in this era, he's trying to make some political moves. He's still a huge figure in professional wrestling and sports in that part of the world. And somehow, some way, it's going to be you and him putting together a match. Were you nervous, anxious, excited?
No, literally, I didn't get to talk to him. I was just excited to get out of there. They said, Inoki wins. I said, no problem. No discussion. How? Kick to the back of the head. Okay. I'll tell him when to do it.
Oh, wow.
That's all. I had never met him. Isn't that funny? I mean, I met him briefly to say hi in before. But, I mean, I had met him. I shouldn't say that, but I'd never talked never tied up with him, never worked with him. I watched him wrestle a couple times. And, just he respected me and I respected him. And I say it to this day, we made music. It was great.
The Observer would say this: it was the first time Inoki and Flair, two of the 5 biggest stars worldwide of this generation, had ever been in the ring together. Reports we received were it was the 52-year-old Japanese senator's best match in a few years. Flair, wrestling in the first main event since the so-called retirement in October, was heavily praised for his ability to carry Inoki. There was an unbelievable crowd chant for Inoki when he came out. But let's talk about that. Is this the biggest crowd you ever wrestled in front of?
190,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, by far. And the only guy they ever cheered for the whole time we were there was Inoki.
Wow. That tells you the stardom he had even in that part.
What's that?
That tells you the level of stardom he had even in that area.
No, you can hear the crowd. Don't understand me, but I think when we first got there, I think I told you the story. I was in the box the first night, right, with one of the sports ministers. And he goes, how come that guy can take that guy down so easy and do all this? How does that? Why is he jumping in the air? Someone had done a leapfrog or something.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. You won't see any of that phony shit in my match.
Oh, God. I love that.
That's what I said to him. I was hitting Inoki as hard as I could. Those guys don't care. They can take it. He was a tough kid, man. And that's what Steve Regal said is just what kind of man Steve is. He said, choke me out. He meant it because Steve is an old school guy and he fears nobody, as everyone knows. And Steve's tough. He's like Fit. Those guys are tougher than hell. They're taught how to wrestle overseas like that because they have to pay the price to get in the business.
Of course, Inoki finishes the match with a reverse kick, a knee drop off the top rope, and an enziguri for the 3 count. How I know we've sort of talked about this sort of tongue in cheek, but how difficult is it really? You don't speak the language. You're not afforded the opportunity to talk to the guy before the match. Biggest crowd of your career. You're told it won't be filmed, but you see cameras everywhere. You're in a unique environment, to say the least. This has to be a nerve-wracking situation, is it not?
Yeah, it was, but I was in no position to say anything. I just knew I'd been lied to and had, and now I don't know why. So here's the part that bothers me. Is George Foreman? I have no idea. I know George real well. I have no idea why he said no. Hulk said no. Sting said no. Who else was it again? Who else was ahead of me?
George Foreman.
Oh, and Foreman. Yeah, I don't know how Hulk and Sting got to say no, and I had to say yes. I guess I just tried to get along in the business back then. But it's just ultimately another lie, people think that me going there was great, and it probably was a great experience for me. But I don't even know how to explain. I mean, I think everybody there was miserable. The Steiners were miserable. They turned off Scott Norton's phone. Couldn't talk to his wife. You couldn't say anything detrimental. Like you couldn't even, if you were complaining to your family member, it was hard to call out. It was just a miserable situation. I mean, the guy that was taking care of me, and this is how scared I was, and I'm not afraid, or I'm not ashamed to say that I was scared. When the guy said to me, I make $6 American a week, I wanted to give him my Rolex and say, brother, you can have this. Just get me the hell out of here. I'm not kidding you. $6 American a week. That was 95.
Yeah, that's a big
deal.
So
me wearing a gold Rolex and all my jewelry. Jesus Christ.
Did you ever see Inoki again after Korea? I know he went in the Hall of Fame in 2010 for WWE, but you weren't there at the time. And just wondering, would you have ran across him again since Korea, or was that it?
Nope. The only guy I've seen since I went there. I saw Fujinami, and I saw Muta and with Reed in 2012 when I took Reed there to wrestle for Muta. I think Muta was on AEW TV the other day. Is that true?
He was, yes, sir.
Yeah. Is he working full time there now?
No, he just made an appearance at the Arthur Ashe Stadium to take on Sting in a surprise, and I guess it set up Sting being a part of one of the Great Muta's last matches over in Japan too.
Oh, cool. Is Sting going to participate in it?
Yes.
Oh, against Muta?
Yes.
In Japan?
Yes.
Oh, great. How was the match they had there?
Oh, it was fun. It was fantastic. It was a tape show. It aired on the Friday show.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about the Friday show? Have you had a chance to catch the Friday show?
I've never seen it.
No. On Wednesday, but Rampage is on Friday, and been a lot of discussion about it, and they've really put a lot of emphasis on it. They've even started to have Jim Ross do commentary on the taped Friday show. So they're trying to make it.
Well, yeah, it comes on like at 11 at night, right? Or 10?
It goes on right after SmackDown. So here in Alabama, it's on at 9, but on the East Coast, yeah, it's on at 10. And I think this Friday, Andrade is going to be wrestling 10 from the Dark Order, Career versus Mask. So folks are going to be tuned in this Friday for sure.
Yeah, I haven't spoken with him. I knew he had a big match. I saw him in Montauk with Ashley. She was there last week for that conference for Chad, but I didn't ask him. I knew that he had taped that. I really don't know what. I really haven't really kept track of what he's doing there. You know, I had hoped, as I told you before, I wish that Tony had let me manage him because he is a absolutely phenomenal worker and a tough kid. I wish I could have managed him, but you know, I guess Tony just elected not to go with me for whatever reason, or go with him or whatever. So,
well, what we're going with is the idea that unbelievably you're celebrating your 50th anniversary. We talked about it a few weeks ago, and then of course we were supposed to talk about it last week, but the hurricane had other plans. Mm-hmm. I think based on what I saw, like you had a pretty cool party, a pretty cool little celebratory cake there.
Yeah.
What about your big party for 50 years of Flair?
Well, actually, I decided just to scale it down, and it was Joe and Dino. Wendy came. You know, at one time I was going to invite Ashley and Manny and then you and Megan and that. And I thought, God, that's just my ego saying do it. Just like 10 people, but it was nice. And Sophia was there because she lives here. Last night we celebrated Sophia's birthday. But it was a real nice time. It was real nice. Just, you know, smaller, but you know, I started thinking about it. What do I want to do most on a Sunday afternoon is watch NFL football.
Right.
And next time you come here to visit, hopefully with Dave, if we keep working on these Woo Wings, I'll take you there because they've remodeled the inside of this place, and they've got probably 20 to 22 televisions.
Oh, wow.
So they've got every game on. It's phenomenal. And it's a nice place. They have really good food. So next time you and me can come this way, which I hope is soon.
Yeah.
I'll take you there and we'll watch football and all that. You know, and hopefully, did you ever look at the date for the Ole Miss game with Alabama?
You know what? That's a good question. Let's look at that right now.
I was hoping they'd play. I don't think they can beat Alabama, but you guys are back at #1 this week.
We are back at #1, and we're going to be on the road taking on Ole Miss on Saturday, November 12th.
November 12th. Boy, if I'm off, man, I'm going to make it. Would you go?
Yeah, hell yeah.
You know who can get us good tickets?
I got a friend over there, but I'm sure you got a higher up one. How's that?
No, just Dixie.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Dixie, she's invited me a bunch of times.
Forgot she's an Ole Miss gal.
Yeah. We had talked to her originally about doing the roast, and then she was out of the country for a while. So
yeah. Well, listen, let's talk about 50 years of Flair. You broke into the business 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Of course, all the credit goes to Verne Gagne.
Absolutely.
I know that you've tweeted out thank yous to Greg Gagne, the Iron Sheik, Ken Patera, Jim Brunzell. Walk me through your first memories of that camp with the Gagne.
I mean, it's something that, and only my new documentary talks about it a lot, but it's just something you wouldn't believe it. Um,
In the winter, in the cold, in a barn.
yeah, I'm just trying to think how to explain it. Well, I weighed 300 pounds. Ken had just gotten back from Munich 72 Olympics. He weighed about 330. Of course, Cosner was 190 and always, he was back then in tremendous shape. Greg and Jim had played college football, so they were in decent shape. But we got there outdoors, 30 degrees. We ran 2 miles around a cornfield.
Oh my.
And then 500 free squats, 250 push-ups, and 250 crunches or sit-ups. Took me 6.5, 7 hours. I couldn't believe it. And then by then it's dark. It's probably 25 degrees at night. So I just got in the car and went home, and I went, God, I'll get one more. I went the next day, and I quit the next day. I did it again, and I quit, and he came over and got me. It's infamous story. I was living in a duplex. He walked right in the front door, didn't knock on the door, grabbed me out of the couch, slapped me, and threw me out in the front yard. Said, you quit football in college, you quit on your parents. He gave me a big lecture, and you're not quitting on me. So I went back out again. I think I did. I think I tried to quit again, and but they would beat you into exhaustion. I mean, first of all, what's Vince Lombardi's greatest saying? Fatigue makes cowards of us all, right?
Yes.
Well, they would blow you up so bad, then they put you on your back and tell you to try to get away. I mean, hold you down. You know what I mean? I'm talking about literally just stretch you.
Wow.
And I thought, my God, this has nothing to do with learning how to wrestle. I've been watching the Crusher and the Bruiser. Oh, I want to talk about drinking beer and chasing fat women like the Crusher did.
Right.
I mean, we didn't even learn about a headlock takeover for the first 3 weeks, or how to fall on your back. It was just beating the shit out of us. I mean, Cosro, man, Billy Robinson dropped. Cosro was an Olympic-style wrestler. Freestyle, you lay on your stomach, and the idea is to turn the guy over, right? Well, in amateur wrestling, the way we do it in high school wrestling is you get down in a stance with your hands out like this.
Yeah.
And you're on your knees, right? And he told Robinson, said, get in that referee's position, and he dropped his knee into Cosro's thigh. Cosro couldn't walk for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
No, it was that bad an injury. Oh, yeah. Unreal. So I just don't have a lot of sympathy when I see anybody whining today about anything. I mean, we really got the shit. And then to learn how to take a backdrop, we did a backdrop out of a hayloft.
Oh, my.
Yeah, before we even got in the ring. It was amazing. Just a different time in life.
How do you think your life would have been different had you not gone back into wrestling? Like, had he not come to your house and slapped you around and made you do it, what do you think you would have wound up doing instead?
Oh, I probably would have gone back on my own if he had let me come back. I don't know what I would have done. The minute when I quit and went home, I was lost. I said, what am I going to do now? Not anticipating him coming over. The thing of it is, if I'd been prepared for that, it'd be different. But I didn't know we were going to do any of that.
Right.
I would have gotten myself in I had a whole month that Ken was gone. I would have gotten myself in shape to do it. It's not that I couldn't do it, but I weighed 300 pounds.
Right.
And hadn't run a mile since my freshman year on the football team. Well, everybody had to run a mile the first day.
Yeah.
But I only weighed 230 pounds then. And then I gained all that weight to be. I wanted to be like Ken and be the strongest man in the world, whatever, which I was never going to be. But I wanted to be a power lifter and all that shit, and went through that whole crazy part of my life like a lot of guys do. But I just wasn't prepared for that. It's not that I couldn't do it. It's just I wasn't prepared, and it was so damn hard. And then can you imagine walking 21 floors on your hands?
No.
Wheelbarrowing a guy upstairs?
No.
I mean, come on. Who does that?
So talk to me
remember
about
Gary Oldfield, the shot putter?
No.
The guy that did the spin around, Brian Oldfield, right? You can Google him.
I'm doing
You know how long he lasted at wrestling camp?
How long?
1 hour.
Oh, really?
He left. He was there for 1 hour. He said, fuck this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do not come to Verne Gagne's wrestling camp and think you're just going to walk in the door.
Talk to me about Greg Gagne. He's maybe a year older than you, maybe a little less than that. Did you know he was Verne's son? What was your relationship?
Oh, yeah. Like? Greg and I, we knew each other in college. I just talked to him the other day. He's had a rough go of it. You know, his wife died of cancer.
Oh, man.
And, but his children are okay. And I spoke with Brunzell. I saw the Sheik. Everybody's still alive, which in this day and age is a miracle, if you think about it.
Yeah.
All the guys we've lost. Brunzy and his wife Mary went out for the first time. Everybody is very protective now. Kind of like we talked about one of our friends that didn't want to attend the event, and they went out last Friday night and got COVID. So people are still afraid as they get older. I guess I'm one of the rare birds. I'm just going to keep on going, man. I'm not. I can't think about catching COVID. I worried about all that stuff when I was training for the match.
Yeah.
And then I got all the way to the match, and I was in the best shape of my life, better than I've ever been. I mean, I could do everything that I did the day I started wrestling. And I was 218 pounds, and I forgot to hydrate. So, I hope that I finally saw the card for Ricky's match. I just hope that he, like I think I hope it'll probably be really good. Wonder who the third guy will be. There's a mystery partner, right?
There's a mystery partner, and a lot of folks online are saying, "Oh, Rick's already telling everybody he's not really retired and he'll never retire. It's Rick."
Oh no! I wish it was. No, it's funny. Even though if things didn't work out perfectly, it motivated me to really get back in shape, and that's the key thing. And I'll be honest with you, I missed all that time that you and I and Megan and everybody had together. That was we were seeing each other every couple of weeks during all that.
Absolutely.
That's what I miss now. Is that we're back? I'm back on the road like every weekend, selling marijuana, man, getting high.
There you go. Who'd have thought?
Hey, it drops on Thursday.
Oh, the Ric Flair
Let me show you this
tomorrow, huh?
Yeah, let me show you. It drops on Thursday. Here's the latest commercial.
So, Rick, let's talk about 50 years of Flair, man. There's not a lot of people who can say that they've had the career that you've had, just 5 decades in anything, beyond wrestling into the pop culture sphere. But a lot of people have said over the years that you were the number 3 prospect in that initial training camp. Had you heard that? And if so, who did they think would be a bigger star than you out of that group? Maybe Ken Patera?
Ken Patera and I imagine Greg.
Wow. I mean, I guess that makes sense when you look at the history and legacy of Verne, but boy, nobody saw this coming. And
what's funny is because Ken, Ken he won a bronze medal. He'd been declared the world's strongest man, which he was at that point in time. Today, his records are still aren't broken.
Right.
The stuff Ken can do. You know what I mean? I'll call him when I'm up there with Rob training and ask him what he thinks about it. He did stuff people still can't do. Yeah. And he laughs at it, you know what I mean? He's got a good attitude, man. I mean, Ken has both knees replaced, both hips replaced, both shoulders replaced. I mean, he paid the price for all those years of weightlifting. And now Greg's got terrible back. He's got several operations, and Jim's knees are gone. And I'm walking around, and, battery last night, American Social tomorrow. Who knows? Phoenix, Arizona. If I make it Thursday with Mike again and Mark Wahlberg Friday in Vegas.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about since we brought it up and or I guess you brought it up, training. You know, a couple of weeks ago we did a show here and then again on your party for the 50 years of Flair, you posted something like I'll never retire. And I guess what we talked about a few weeks ago was you saying, "Oh man, Ricky's going to wrestle again. I'm jealous." So now there's been all these reports. Oh, he's been going to Lincoln, as if you were going to Lincoln, Nebraska. You were going to Lakeland to train with Rob's guy. As you said, you just wanted to be in shape, but there's a whole
Land of Lakes.
There's a whole bunch of folks who believe, oh no, Rick's getting ready to wrestle again. What are your immediate wrestling plans, Rick?
None.
Isn't that crazy? Why? I don't know how it just keeps taking
because
off.
I can't. The minute I say it inspires me to want to do it again.
They think you're doing it.
Yeah, it's not that I couldn't. I absolutely do. I will stand by this. I wish I hadn't said. I wish I hadn't said it was my last match, and I don't want to disappoint a bunch of fans by doing it again. But I got myself into good shape, and then I made one drastic, what turned out to be drastic mistake by not hydrating. But I feel great. I feel like as long as you're healthy and you want to do it, you should do what you want to do when you get to my age. I mean, we're always limiting ourselves to what things. I feel like we limit ourselves to what people think we should be doing sometimes, as opposed to what we're doing.
I get that.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, that's a good.
And I think maybe me wrestling in Nashville inspired Ricky to do it. He said, "What the hell? I can do that for sure."
Right.
And probably better. And he probably will. He'll look better. He always has, always will.
It's just hard to think about, we're here we are talking about celebrating 50 years of your career, and you just had a match on this almost 50th anniversary. And, what would you say? Cause you've told us a lot about the training and how brutal it was. We know how tough it was. What was the best part of training? Did you have any fun at all?
With Verne?
Yeah.
Oh, the best part of training was up on the weekends. We got together and went drinking every night.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. And with Verne, who's a lot of fun. He wants to wrestle everybody in the bar. No kidding. Verne Gagne was a lot of fun to go out and drink with. He was a real tough guy.
When would you say you started to feel like, all right, I got it. I'm figuring out this wrestling thing. Cause you said it was a long time before you even started to learn things like headlock takeovers and all that. But
well, you don't understand. My first match was against Scrap Iron George Gadasky, right?
Yeah.
I kept thinking it was against Kenny J. It was George Gadasky. I've done research December 10th, and I did. And Verne said, "Go out there and wrestle 10 minutes." I said, "What? Go out there 10 minutes. Do what you've learned. I haven't learned anything." That's what he said to me. "See what you got." That's the way it went back then, man. A little different than now, right?
A lot different.
Leslie made me my first jacket. She did.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, it was a learning process, man. It was hard. I can remember, and Leslie remembers this too. I would tell Leslie that I had to go work. Even though I wasn't booked, I would go on the road with Rhodes and Murdoch.
Well, you were having fun, that's for sure.
And of course, while Ken was in Germany, we had to borrow his car to have a good car to ride in.
What's wrong?
Oh, God. Those days I don't mind. I mean, they threw me out of the car in the middle of North Dakota one time with all my clothes off. And they drove out of sight, and I said, this might be disastrous. I couldn't see a light for a farmhouse or anything. And sure enough, they made a U-turn and came down the road. Murdoch was shooting his 9mm in the air, and they drove by me going 80 miles an hour. And I'm just standing there. Conrad, you have no idea. Traveling with Rhodes and Murdoch. Oh, my God. They called me one time and told me, Dusty goes, "Hey, we're going to be on Johnny Carson tonight. Get us to the airport, man. Don't tell anybody." So, God, I drove to the airport. I came home. I got Leslie asking. I said, "Rhodes and Murdoch, Johnny Carson. I never watched TV, right?" She there watch. And show was on. No rules. They went to Hawaii. I'm waiting to watch them on Johnny Carson. I hate those bastards. Oh, the times we had back then, though, God, later. I mean, we'd go into a place called, I can't think of it, only come to me, the Flame or something like that, downtown Minneapolis, and fights would break out, and they had that damn mule, Zeb. They'd ride that mule up on the stage, and there'd be a big fight break out. Larry Hennig would say, I just sit back, kid, leave light work to these guys. We just watch these fights. I mean, it was just a different time of life. I mean, now, God, you wouldn't see anything like that in a bar now, but 70s was different. And of course, then Harley Race got shot at the chestnut tree, or got stabbed in a fight there. And when he got out of the hospital, he went by this place called Cal's Barbecue and blew all the windows out. It was different times. Traveling with Harley Race with an experience too. Let me tell you, there isn't much. I look at the 50 years. I think what makes me different is there's nobody I haven't wrestled.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, I look at the cast of characters, and I look at the show now, and I go, man, it's so different. I mean, I can't even see Hanson and Brody wrestling right now.
Right.
I don't. The guys wouldn't know how to handle them. They would, or Mulligan. I mean, Jesus Christ, you couldn't say a word to Jack without him punching somebody. Can you imagine one of the guys giving some shit to Harley Race? I mean, it's just a different time, and it just, those are just, and I mean, I'm looking at it from, I actually made that video. My Mount Rushmore has to have Harley Race on it.
Right.
It just has to. Because even to this day, and I'm the same way, Sean or Hunter, I'm sure will say the same thing. There's more Harley Race stories out there than anybody alive still.
Right.
He just was that goddamn tough and that crazy. Holy shit.
When you watch modern wrestling, as we look back on 50 years of Flair, what's the biggest difference between wrestling 50 years ago and now?
The difference is, and I've got to qualify this so that everybody understands what I'm saying. The difference is that you had to, number one, you wrestled so many more. You wrestled every possible imaginable character and style in the world.
Right.
And if you're in Japan, you had to fight for your life. Now it's everything is much more it's a much more controlled environment. Let's put it like that. And of course, the choreography is totally different than the old days. There was no choreography. You went out there and just hoped that you had the chemistry, and through practice and trial and error, you found the right guys. And I was lucky enough to find a lot of guys that I had great chemistry with, from Dusty to Harley to Terry to somebody put something up yesterday about my 14 best matches, and I could agree with that. Barry, and then of course wrestling an hour every night. And it's not that the guys couldn't do it. I just don't think they'd have enough experience. Even the guys that have been in the business for 10 years to wrestle an hour every night. Yeah, was I repetitive, which I've been accused of? Yeah, but when you wrestle an hour every night, sometimes twice on Saturday and twice on Sunday, like I did with Morton and Steamboat a number of times, or Harley, how do you change it around?
Right.
You don't. But at the same time, if you're knocking it, let's see you do it. And the answer to that is, I can't. So I'm pretty proud of the 50 years. I mean, I've probably, if I've made mistakes, a lot of them have been not so much in wrestling as they have been the personal decisions I've made in my life that have been absolutely crucially wrong. But as far as working in that, if I wanted to be who I am today, I couldn't have changed. I had to go to work. And that's why, I'm here today, and why people still talk about me, I hope, and respect the body of work that I threw together. But at the same time, I had a lot of fun, and I'd be the first to sit here and say I was miserable. I had fun. You know, I mean, I made myself because a lot of it was so damn hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And I hate to keep knocking Wichita, but Wichita on a Monday night, man, ain't much going on. Or Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Or Topeka. If I had to go to Moscow for a week, I was going to find someone that could speak Russian.
I love you for that.
It's the truth.
I feel like,
and drink vodka.
well, we know you did your fair share of that, and we're going to keep
and Crown Roll just like you.
Oh yeah, and we're going to keep doing that. Next week we're going to be talking about, and I think we're actually going to watch along. I love watching old wrestling with you. You've admitted this wasn't your favorite title match ever, but boy, it is an important one for WWE history. We're going to watch when you drop the title to Bret the Hitman Hart 30 years ago. Where does the time go? It's going to be a lot of fun, man.
Was that 30 years ago with me and Bret? Wait, no, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Now that's when I had the vertigo.
It's going to be a fun time. You're going to see Bret climb.
Let's do Ask Nation next week. I like those.
Yeah, we can do that. You want to do that next week? We'll do that.
Yeah, I like those where they got a week to think about it and then ask anything.
We'll do it. Ask Nate anything. We'll come back and we'll watch the Flair match the following week. But next week, ask Rick anything right here,
including how much fun Conrad had with Rick before he married his daughter.
That was a lot. It was a melt. A lot.
I love you, man.
A lot. Love you too, man. We'll see you guys next week.
Tell that goddamn Dave Green to send me my royalty check.
Woo! Woo!